Hi, and welcome to How to Build an Intuitive Brand. I only have a little bit of time with you today, so I'm not going to cover everything that is involved in tapping into your intuition when it comes to creating a business and brand that is authentic to you, but I'm going to do my best. So, one of the first things that I would recommend when you're trying to tap into how to create your brand and you're thinking about your colors and you're thinking about how it's going to look and you're thinking about your website, that you need to take a little bit of a step back. So you need to take a step back and you need to do a couple of exercises that I will give you a few tips on what you can start to look into before you really jump into creating the visual brand. So there's a real difference between the visual brand and the brand itself. So a lot of people will think the brand is just the logo or the brand is just the color scheme, which it is not. So your brand encompasses everything from your value system to your vision, your mission, your belief system. And those are the things that you want to start to think about instilling into your brand wherever people see your brand, wherever there are touch points with your brand, like for example, your social media, if they make phone calls, if they have a booking system, if you have receptionists, if you send out packages, if there are any touch points in your brand, you have to start to think about how it is that people are experiencing your value system within those touch points. So, say for example, you have one of your highest values that's instilled in your brand is sustainability. And say, for example, sustainability is something that's very important to your customers. So that's something that people are going to see in when they receive your packaging, and the packaging is some really nice recycled, bleach-free paper. And that is something that is communicating your values to your customers. So that's an example of something that you can put into your brand that's going to reflect the value system that you hold. So one of the first things that I often do with my clients when they're working with me is we work out what their value system is. And essentially what we do is we look at all the values that exist. I have this whole list. And in this list, I've just got all the values that exist. And then what we'll do is we'll pick out all of the values that the client is drawn to, and we'll put them all in one column. So essentially what you do is you write up 4 columns. And then once you've put in all of the values in column 1, you hone that in and you go to column 2. So it's this process of honing down. A lot of what I do is honing in on things. So boiling things down into their essence and narrowing things down so that your brand doesn't stand for everything. It stands for something that is your truest essence, the truest version of you that is possible. So you narrow that down. So you start with the values exercise, essentially. So you do the values exercise, and then you narrow it down to 25 in column 2. And then in column 3, you narrow it down to 10. And then when you get to column 4, you narrow it down to your top 5 values. And that is the values exercise. It can take a little bit of time. So when you're doing this exercise, give yourself a little bit of time to do it, because sometimes it can take a while. But give yourself that time. My second tip for building an intuitive brand is for you not to look around at other people and try and emulate what other people are doing. Even if you see something and you say, I really love that, that's what I want my brand to be. It can be very helpful in a way, but it can also stray you off your own path. So one thing that I recommend you do is when you're thinking about your brand, try not to think too much about the end result. Go to Pinterest and go and start pinning anything. It could be pictures of interiors in houses, it could be different textures, it could be a photo of the beach, it could be completely different random things. And just start pinning stuff and just start pinning whatever it is you are drawn to. Because sometimes I find what happens when people are doing this work is that they've created something that isn't reflective of what they would love to see what excites them. So they've created something that they think it should look like and not something that they would themselves be excited by. So if you're not being excited by your content, if you're not being excited by your brand, why would anyone else be excited by it? You've got to think, okay, this is an extension of me. My brand is an extension of me. It's not something that is you, but it's definitely an extension of you. And I think branding is a gateway to your true work. It is something that is your passion. And isn't that the whole point of creating a brand and a business, that is something that you created, that's coming from your essence and your soul, and it's something that is going to provide you with this platform for you to express yourself and to help people in the way that you really want to help people. So that's what I feel like the whole point of branding is. It's not just there to create, a lot of wealth, which it can do, but it's not really the first point of call when it comes to, wanting to create a brand that reflects who you are. I mean, if you wanted to just create a business and do drop shipping and sell random stuff on the internet, you could do that. But that's not the whole point of having a brand. So you've got to ask yourself, like, why am I creating this brand? What is important to me? What do I care about? And then you can start to think about, okay, I've got my values, I've got my list of the things that I believe in, I've got this kind of idea, and then I'm starting to pin some things on Pinterest that I am just naturally drawn to, and you may not even know why. And you just start pinning these things, right? And then eventually you'll start to see a pattern forming. And so try really hard not to control it from the get-go, because when you start to control it, you'll find that you'll be trying to jump to the final... Sorry, I'm just losing my voice. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm back. So you will be trying to jump to the... Okay, it's going to look like this in the end. You cannot control the process, because as soon as you start controlling the process, you're not going to get something that's going to be... you and your essence. You're going to end up with something that you think it should have looked like, and that's not what you want. There is this question that I always ask my clients when I'm starting out with them. It's not really a branding question, but it's a really good question. It's called the Dan Sullivan Question, and it's a question that you can ask yourself to get yourself inspired. Because when you're doing this work, you really want to feel motivated and inspired and alive when you're doing it. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with something that you're going to look at it later and you're just going to think, oh, like, I hate that. I don't like that. And so what you want to do is you want to have people come to your brand and go, oh, I feel so inspired by this. I feel like energized. I feel a certain way. It could be, you want people to feel really calm. That could also be something that you might want to instill or have people have that emotional response to. So I totally forgot what I was talking about. The Dan Sullivan question goes something like this. In 3 years from today, what would you have to achieve both personally and professionally in order for you to feel happy with your progress? So in 3 years from today, what would have to happen for you personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress? And ask yourself this question and write down your answers and say to yourself, what would blow my mind of having me achieve it? What would be really cool? Would it be a physical space that you could host people in? Would it be an office? Would it be, that you've moved to a new city? Would it be that you've had 20 clients? Would it be a retreat? Would it be, I don't know, like earning a certain amount of money? What are these things that you would just blow your mind for being able to achieve, and really stretch yourself in thinking, what is it that I would love to have achieved in 3 years? So 3 years is just out enough that it gives you a bit of opportunity to think, okay, in 3 years I could do this specific thing. So it's not going out as far as 10 years. That's a different exercise which you can definitely do to stretch yourself out to 10 years, but just stretch yourself out to 3 years. What would your life be like in 3 years' time? 3 years is also what I do in the reverse for when I'm thinking about who are your clients. So when I'm trying to talk to the customer or the client, depending on, your business type, when I'm talking to the customer, I think of myself 3 years ago. And that's also something you can do. So you can think of yourself 3 years ago. Where were you 3 years ago? Who was that person? And that is the person that you can talk to when you're trying to engage this person. So this is something that you can do to make it feel so authentic to you, because this is an experience that you have had. This is something that you know personally that has happened. So sometimes people try to create a business or a brand that has nothing to do with them personally. But I think that a brand has to be channeled through you and your experiences in life. Because if it isn't, it's just not going to feel authentic. It's going to feel like somebody has just put together all these little pieces of things from abstract areas of, these influencers or these people would really like this type of branding. But if it's not coming from you, your business isn't coming through you as the leader of the business, as the person who has the vision, it's not going to come across properly. It's going to feel a bit weird. So stepping into that leadership role that you are here for, if you're watching this right now, let me just say, you are a leader. People that don't want to be leaders in their lives do not come to these things. They do not sign up for these things. They do not watch these videos. So know that the fact that you are here watching this right this second means that you have that leadership DNA. It is inside of you. That is something that is, I don't know where it came from. You may have an inkling, but it doesn't even matter if you do or not. But that is something that is inside you, and that is something that you have to draw on to lead your brand. And when it comes to using your intuition, it is something that is inside you, and sometimes it can be, in your gut, or it could be in your body. Like you might feel, so generally, when I'm trying to make decisions, I'll feel into my body. And I'll feel whether or not I have this body truth, right? So when you're thinking about your body truth and you're trying to make a decision of to go this way or this way. So lean into your body truth. So does your body feel expansive? Does it feel lighter? Does it feel more open? Or does it feel more closed? Does it feel more constricted? Does it feel more like you're hunching? Does it feel more like you're going like this? Like, I really don't want to do that. And generally that will give you the truth of whether or not you should do something, whether or not you should take on a client, whether or not you should do a certain project. It will tell you whether or not you're excited to do it, or whether you feel like, I just should do it, but I don't really want to, but I should do it for the money. And that's another thing I should say too, is when you're listening to your intuition doesn't usually say, I should do this for the money. Your intuition won't generally tell you, I should do this for the money, because when your intuition is there, it will tell you whether it's right for the right reasons, not for the reasons of, I need to pay my rent. And, of course, sometimes we do need to do things to pay the rent, but as long as you are consciously aware of that fact, that you are doing that so that you pay the rent, and that it's not something that you're going to get completely bogged down in and then eventually get sucked into for a long-term period. As long as you know that thing is there just to give you the money while you build your dream business. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your customers. So with your customers, I want you to ask yourself this. Who do I champion? Who does your business and your brand champion? Who is that person that you want to advocate for, that you want to stand up for, that you want to show up for, that you want to fight for? Who is that person? And then what you want to do is you want to write down a big list of all these people. So It could be, for example, it could be the, people that have felt left out of society, people that have felt like they have been, I don't know. It could be anything. It could be like that their family has ostracized them. People who are single who can't find a partner. It could be people who are really looking for more self care and then they're feeling really burnt out. So it really depends on what you do. But think about the people that you really want to, you feel really called to help, and that you champion. So that's kind of the key word there. Is like, who are you championing? Who are you advocating for? Who is it that you feel like really needs support? Who has maybe had some injustices done against them? Who you feel like this was you 3 years ago, and that this was something that you feel like, I know this struggle and I want to help these people. So when it comes to your customers, this is what you do. And you do the same thing that I was talking about with the values. So you do the same thing where you get your columns. And for this one, you do 3 columns. And then you have about 20, up to 20 customers of people that you champion. And you write down all of the people and you just keep going until you fill it all in. And you go, yes, the person who has felt left out. Yes, the person who is burnt out. The person who, does not have a partner or a husband to support them. All of those types of people. So write them all down. And then what you want to do is you want to hone it in. So you want to pick the top 5 of those of the first list. And you hone it down to the top 5. And then once you've got your top 5, you hone it down again. So everything with branding is this kind of honing in process. So what is happening is that you're trying to get to this little index card that people have placed inside their heads. So they have this little index card in their head, and when they take it out of their head, that's you. And on that index card, there are a couple of things. Who is it for? Which is, who do you champion? What is it? And why? But, that's a longer discussion. But to go back to who do you champion? So you have your 5, and then what you do is you say, who of all of the customers that you've written, who do you have most of now? So who do you have the majority of now? And then you pick another one. So you're picking 2. And then you say to yourself, okay, who do I want more of? Who do I want more of this customer? And then you can also do the same thing with your look and feel and your tone of voice. And this is exactly the process that I take all my clients through. It can help definitely if you have someone there sitting with you, like me, to help you hone it in, but you can do it on your own as well. And, it'll be so much better if you do it like even on your own as opposed to not doing it at all, because it will give you that little bit of guidance for yourself. So when you do get to the stage where you go to look at all of your colors and your graphics and your website, you will have this basis to look at, to go back to and go, okay, that is what is guiding me, rather than getting lost in the sea of possibilities. So sometimes we hyperventilate on the infinite possibilities, but that can really trip us up. So we need to kind of do this work first before we go and look at all the graphics and everything. The last thing I think I'm going to say is try not to feel like you have to have your brand all figured out right from the get-go, because it's not possible, because your brand is going to grow and evolve right alongside you. And it is a natural process that will occur no matter what you do. No matter what, it will change alongside you. It's like an organism, like a growing organism. It's alive and it changes and grows with you. So you can't really get it wrong, because it's going to be changing alongside you. And if you feel like you have to get it right from the get-go, there are some things that you should get right from the get-go. But when it comes to thinking about the things that you value, your values, your beliefs, your vision, your mission, all of those things, you can't really get them wrong, and they will evolve, over time. So it's important not to get too stuck on feeling like I'm going to get this wrong and I'm going to bugger this up, because you have to allow a little bit of a leeway for the brand to exist in its own right. It's its own entity, and it has to be able to be in flow with you, and you've got to give it its own space in a way. So you've got to just put it out there and not worry too much about whether or not they're the right colors, whether you have the right fonts right now, because you can always fix these things, you can always upgrade. It's also within the laws of the incremental upgrade. So you can't really start, I don't know where you are right now, but if you're starting out, you can't really start out from the place of, I'm going to have this luscious luxury brand, all sitting there. It just doesn't work like that. And what will happen is you will get stuck for a very long time. And if you don't follow the law of the incremental upgrade, you're going to get very stuck from being able to get to that place you're trying to get to. So you have to start where you are. You have to start with the resources you have right now. If you can't afford a graphic designer, if you can't afford, somebody to do your copywriting for you, if you can't afford someone to do your website for you, that's fine. Start with the resources that you have. If you don't have a microphone, that's fine. If you don't have a whole setup, just start with what you have and put it out there. Because the sooner you do, the sooner you're going to get better at absolutely everything that it is you're doing. And you will watch yourself be able to grow much faster, and you are going to develop and strengthen your intuition as you go as well. So that's going to be strengthening, and your brand is going to be evolving, and it's going to be going with you. And yeah, so that's the law of the incremental upgrade. So start where you are, start with what you have, start with what resources you have, and just put something out there, and put something out there that is something that you believe in, something that holds true to what you value, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Literally, there is no point in looking at anybody else and saying, that is how I should be doing it. There are no shoulds, and you can't get this wrong. You can't get it wrong when it comes to creating your own brand. And that's the whole point of having your own brand, is that you get to make it exactly how you want, and exactly how you want it to be, and how you want it to exist. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. I didn't want to put too much information in here, but feel free to send me a voice note on Instagram. I am at Barefoot Branding. If you have questions, or if there's anything else you'd like me to address, I can jump in there and I can give you some little bits and pieces of guidance. And yeah, I really hope this was helpful. And please let me know what your journey is like and where you are in your journey. I would love to hear from you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this summit. So many beautiful speakers in here. And yeah, that's basically it. Signing off. Love to you all, and I'll speak to you soon.